Hi everyone, Shai here. I hope all of you are doing good. Welcome to another new video. In a world where development and progress often mean the demolition of the old to make way for the new, some individuals stand as beacons of resistance. These are the stories of homeowners who refuse to be uprooted, defying government orders and holding on to their cherished abodes at any cost. From Salah Ujjani Property to Stephen White Stubbornness, here are some of the owners who refuse to move out of their houses at any price. Number 1. Salah Ujjani. In what was once an old neighborhood in Roubaix, northern France, you'll see one lone building. It looks out of place, and it is. That's because its owner, Salah Ujjani, refuses to sell a coffee house he's worked in for nearly half a century. Many residents who used to have properties around the coffee house, named Café Chez Salah, decided to sell to developers, leaving Salah's property alone. It was definitely frustrating for those wanting to use the land. A new Union eco-district was supposed to be built on the expansive piece of land in the area, with housing for 240,000 people to be developed on 80 hectares. The entire development was set to cost around 174 million euros. But even though every other business and property owner in the area could be convinced to sell, Salah couldn't. He came to France from Algeria in 1949 and worked hard with his wife, Jeanette, until they eventually purchased the Café Chez Salah building in 1965. Salah said he doesn't want to part with the memories of his life's work and doesn't need the money. He said he would never move and that his life was there. Realizing that Salah couldn't be convinced to sell, developers have decided to include the cafe in their development plans since they no longer have a choice. The story of Salah Ujjani was published in 2011, so obviously, a lot of time has passed since then. There isn't much information about what became of the cafe. However, Google Maps shows that it's still there and that the cafe is potentially still open. According to reviews on its business listing, Salah is believed to have died, and his son took over the cafe. Number 2. Brian and Mark Wilson. The Thirsty Beaver Saloon at 1225 Central Avenue in Charlotte, North Carolina, is perhaps unlike any dive bar you've ever seen. Aside from its quirky honky-tonk theme, it's unique in the respect that, even though developers came knocking, they refused to sell out. So, rather than being able to demolish the bar to build apartment complexes in its place, they had to build the new structures in a horseshoe shape around the bar. Patrons couldn't be happier. The Thirsty Beaver Saloon shot to fame for refusing to sell to developers in 2021, and many locals are thrilled that they'll be able to keep hanging out at their favorite bar, despite looking like a bit of a bad boy location. With motorcycles often parked out front, it's quite the opposite. The bar is owned by two dads, Brian and Mark Wilson, who also own two other similar establishments, Rat's Nest and Tipsy Burrow. Number 3. Apartment block tenants. Developers in China wanted to build a new road. That's easy enough to do when a road already exists. You can just renew the road and the job's done. But building a brand new road can be much trickier, especially when you're dealing with multiple people who don't want to leave their homes. That's fair enough. You shouldn't be made to leave a house you love. Multiple tenants in a Chinese apartment block refused to do just that. Some residents in the Guangzhou apartment building didn't want to leave at all, while others wanted more compensation for leaving than they were offered. Rather than negotiating any further to demolish the property in 2008, developers decided to proceed with road development and built a ring viaduct directly around the apartment. Now, to be fair, it actually looks quite cool. The apartment building has lush green grass surrounding it and roads to leave their homes easily. But if they look out their windows, they'll see hundreds of cars moving around them at all times of the day and night. Before moving on to the next point, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you all to my merchandise. You can support my content by getting your favorite products from my store or by simply joining my channel. Your support means a lot to me. Now, let's get back to the video. Number 4. Nanning, China home. You can understand not wanting to sell a house you live in, but one homeowner is refusing to sell his property in Nanning, China, even though he doesn't live there. The small house is all that remains of an old village, and it's in the most annoying location possible, the middle of a road. A residential block surrounds the house, and such is its location that people have to drive around the house just to get where they need to go. You've got to admit, it looks hilarious. The shack sits on its own on the street, and it's quite dilapidated. You'd definitely support the homeowner if he lived there and didn't want to move out of a house he loved. But it just seems like he's holding out for a good deal from the developers. In the meantime, the authorities aren't able to complete the necessary maintenance work in the area. According to Chinese law, you aren't able to demolish a house without an agreement in place, typically through the owners receiving compensation. Online reports suggest that the house was part of a village mostly removed in the 1990s. A dispute between the authorities and the homeowner has allegedly been ongoing for more than a decade. Number 5. Gate Tower Building. Most skyscrapers and tall buildings don't stand out that much. You see one tall building, you've seen them all. But that's not quite the case regarding the Gate Tower Building in Osaka, Japan. This building definitely stands out because a highway cuts through the 5th, 6th, and 7th floors. Yeah, you can literally drive through an office building. Now, that wasn't the initial plan. In the 1980s, an area of Fukushima-ku, Osaka, was deteriorating. Development plans were in the pipeline, and a project had been approved by local property owners. They were just waiting for their building permits. However, a small spanner was thrown in the works. Unbeknownst to them, an extension for the Hanshin Expressway had already been approved, and the planned route would run directly through the area undergoing development. Neither party was willing to give up their project plans, so 5 years of negotiations soon commenced. Eventually, they came to an agreement they would put the Hanshin Expressway through the gate tower. Drivers coming off the Hanshin Expressway would pass through a mouth-like gate. As you might have astutely guessed, building occupants can't access this part of the building. The elevator is marked with floors 1 through 4 and 8 through 16. The floors in between are labeled Hanshin Expressway, and the elevator bypasses them. Number 6. Stephen White. For more than 100 years, a Victorian home built in 1888 has withstood the violent waters surrounding Holland Island in Chesapeake Bay. Former resident and island owner Stephen White spent a small fortune and countless hours trying to save the house and the entire island until, eventually, amidst failing health, he had to admit defeat. A small colony settlement was established on Holland Island in the 1600 seconds before a fishing and farming boom brought many people to the island in the 1850s. Here, 360 residents established homes, a school, general stores, a church, and a post office. Holland Island even had its own basketball team, community center, and doctor. Over time, it became noticeable that Holland Island was losing its shoreline. In 1914, residents did their best to save the island by building stone walls and sinking boats to slow erosion. But their efforts were in vain. Most residents chose to leave the island, and the final family left after a tropical storm in 1918 that left the church damaged beyond repair. The island was abandoned and neglected until 1995, when Methodist minister and former waterman from Holland Island, Stephen White, decided to purchase the entire island for $70,000. His plan was to preserve its legacy under the name Holland Island Preservation Foundation. He spent 15 years and $150,000 trying to save the island with 23 tons of rocks, sandbags, and makeshift levees, but never had any luck. During his 15 years of ownership, Holland Island shrank by 20 acres. From 1915 to 2005, the island shrunk to half its size, and a 2003 hurricane destroyed at least 60% of the trees and decimated the avian population. In 2010, Stephen fell ill and acknowledged that he could do little more for the island. He sold it, and not long after, the final structure on the island collapsed. Some houses are more than just roofs over our heads. They're memory banks, family treasures, and worth more than the land value to a wealthy developer or road builder. If your treasured home was earmarked for development, would you sell up or stand firm? So, that was all for today. I hope you have watched the video up to this timestamp. Make sure to press the like button if it amazed you. Press the subscribe button if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, as it's totally free. You can follow me on all social media platforms. All links are given in the description. You can also watch other cool stuff. The playlist link is also mentioned in the description. I will catch you up soon in the next video. Till then, peace out.